Calling the meeting to order and welcome everyone. This is our regular monthly meeting of the town council. And it is Wednesday, May 11th already, 6 p.m. We do have two changes to the agenda. Under old business, actually, I'm going to make three changes. We're going to put the solar projects right after approval of minutes because we do have guests here. So we'll do that. Under old business number 2, the title of the resolution is changed to alternate energy systems permit fees. And then under old business number 3, it's purchase of 12 styles app, not 9. My error. I take full responsibility. Okay. Okay. So again, welcome everybody. The first item on the agenda is public comment, and this gives us an opportunity to listen to our constituents of any concerns or thoughts or comments. So if you would like to speak to the council, if you could please say your name and where you live. And we do have the podium set up, so if we can't hear or whatever, we might ask you to go over there, but otherwise, okay.
My name is Day Meehan, and can you hear me okay?
I'm old, so I'll just try my best.
So I can take this
Can everybody hear? Okay.
Yeah. I live on Irish Settlement Road in Canton, and I have a petition here from, of the 32 households on Irish Settlement, 28 households signed to request that the speed limit be reduced to 45 miles per hour. This is based on the speed in which people drive on the road and a recent fatality that just happened on the road on Easter Sunday. So I don't know if there's anything to add to that. Toby, can you think of anything? Yeah. So I don't know, should I just give you this?
If you could give it to the clerk for the record, that would be great.
Sure, thank you.
And are you requesting the speed limit to be reduced for the entire road?
Well, that would be ideal because it does border on the wildlife refuge. So there are a lot of animals on the road, and there are children and pets and people who bike, people who run. But it's kind of an interesting road because it's called Irish Settlement, and it's really that. There's like 2 or 3 settlements of groups of houses, and then the rest of the road is really, there's no homes on it because of the wildlife refuge. It's on the back side of the upper and lower lakes. So, I mean, it would be great if the whole road was, but at least if sections where the houses are could be reduced to 45, that would be really good. And thank you for all the things that you sent. I appreciate that with the signage. So,
You're welcome.
okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Faye. So the next order of business, we will send that to the county.
Yes.
And they'll forward it to the state. And board members have any problem with us forwarding this petition request?
Not at all.
Okay. Okay, anyone else?
Hi, everyone. My name
Bill,
is
could
Bill.
you stand up?
Oh, sure.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Bill Myers, and I'm a resident of town of Canton. I didn't plan to attend a town board meeting to talk about this topic, but with a little encouragement and feeling of obligation for future generations here. As I mentioned, I'm a resident of the town, and about 40 acres of my property fall under the National Grid and Power Authority right. The recent power project has been incredibly disruptive to my family and our ability to enjoy our home property. The incident, gates being left open, construction noise, dust, drilling, the vibration of our home, the invasion of privacy, the exhaust fumes, the constant truck and heavy equipment traffic, litter, water bottles, rubber gloves, piles of human excrement and toilet paper, and the fact that there is currently a kiddie pool lodged in one of my trees are just some of the inconveniences that we've endured the past 3 years. These annoyances are consistent without a break, as crews are working 7 12s, meaning 7 12-hour days a week. meaning that we have not had the use of our land for recreation, farming, hunting, or just to walk around. I absolutely believe that this project has decreased the value of my property. And although I want you to be aware of those issues, believe it or not, that's not why I'm being talked. I came here to ask that the town of Canton look carefully at the use of herbicides and pesticides within the town, and specifically by the use of utilities in their right of ways within the town. On my property alone, there are wetlands, and we actually have a home for about 40 or 50 great blue herons who rely on healthy population of fish and reptiles. According to the people at the New York Power Authority, my property is marked as an area where they limit the use of herbicides and use a process called cut and stump treat, as opposed to a foliar spray. I sent a letter to the town a year ago about this. Foliar spray is like giving a tree a shower with herbicides, and it kills a circle around that tree about 6 feet, even if the tree is only a foot tall. The most environmentally friendly way to prevent growth under the power lines is to cut or mow the land, but that's labor intensive, and I understand. But there is that process where they can cut the trees and then apply just a dab or a few drops of herbicide to the stump that they have cut. And that is called cut and stump treat. That's the way my property is currently being labeled. They prefer cut and stump treat process. And I would ask that the town consider asking that the utilities use a similar process in their areas. The use of herbicides is dangerous to your health and to the health of future generations. You will be told that the herbicides or pesticides that they're using are safe. But remember that products like DDT and Agent Orange were considered safe at one point in time. Just 7 years ago, paraquat was considered safe. Just 5 years ago, glyphosate, Roundup, Rodeo, Ranger Pro, they're all glyphosate products, were considered safe, but data now suggests otherwise. Glyphosate exposure is linked to chromosomal and DNA damage in human cells, as well as non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and other types of cancer. More than 25 countries and some jurisdictions in the US have banned or restricted the use of glyphosate. In 2019, researchers at the University of Washington concluded that using glyphosate increases the risk of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma by 41%. That's wrong. Low concentrations of glyphosate, similar to what would be found in an average adult, resulted in more rapid growth, proliferative effects of tumors, and hormone-dependent cancers like breast cancer. In addition, risks related to Roundup include fatty liver disease, birth defects, and negative effects in pregnancy. There are also reports that suggest a potential impact of Roundup on liver, kidneys, general metabolic processes, as well as composition of the gut diet. So we can't know what other effects herbicides would have with residuals in our soil and water. And I ask that we act to minimize their use in our town. Other municipalities across the country have passed ordinances to minimize the use of pesticides and herbicides. And for the health of our community, I hope that we will as well. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Bill. Any other public comment? Would the board be interested in having this as a discussion item at the next month's meeting?
Absolutely.
Any other public comment? Okay, the next item on the agenda is county legislative representative update. I don't see any representatives here. The next item is approval of minutes from our regular board meeting at 4/13/22. Is there a motion? So moved by Bob Sandel. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by, was that you, John? John Tile. Any further discussion or comments? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Carried. Okay, solar projects. I'm going to ask that you pull up that information, please. So the town has been working on solar for quite some time. And a law was passed and projects have started as far as preliminary stages. And so we would like the public to know about these projects and the acreage, the megawatts, the dollar amount of the escrow, and when that money is received. And then we have a few projects that are at stage of inquiry only. And I don't know if you can increase that a little bit, but we also have copies, if anyone would like one. So we do,
In the public packet as well.
it's in the public packet as well. Okay. So we do have a few guests here. Bill Buchanan, our solar attorney, and John Candino from Barton and Judas, and they've been part of this journey with us for a little bit. So I'm going to ask that you just briefly identify these projects and where we're at.
Sure.
Because this is really important for our residents to know about.
Okay, so going through the list, we have the Grass River Solar Project, which is Cypress Creek Renewables. Cypress Creek is a California company that operates on a national scale. And if any of you are landowners, significant acreage, Cypress Creek 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, solicited throughout the country for people that were interested in leasing their land for solar development. So I would imagine that the folks on County Route 27 received those letters and signed up for solar development. So they're looking at 24 acres, 4.45 megawatts of power. And based on the size of that project and the capital cost of it, they made a $38,000 deposit in the town's escrow. EDF Renewables is the Rich Road project. This is 1,500 acres, 240 megawatts. This is what we refer to as a 94C project. That's the name of the regulations. New York State, in one of its budget cycles, decided that in order to meet the renewable energy goals for the state, which are very aggressive, they would allow a sort of fast track process where a state siting board would be responsible for the permitting and regulatory actions associated with these large scale projects. The threshold is 25 megawatts. This one is 240 megawatts. Our participation in this project has begun. They've solicited comments from the town relative to traffic impacts, visual impacts, other things that we need to comment on and provide input on as a town. And so there is a document that we're working on that will forward that process. This is a major power plant. Just to give you a sense of scale, the nuclear power plant in Oswego is 800 megawatts. This is 240 megawatts. So it's a major plant. It'll encompass some 1,100 acres on both sides of the road. There will be a series of opportunities for the public to come and look at drawings for the project, participate. They want public participation in this process. Soul America on Jensen Street is a 42-acre project, 4.5 megawatts. They deposited an escrow. Projects that are in the 5 megawatts and lower are typically community solar projects. So if you're interested in purchasing solar electricity, you can go on the web. There's a website called Energy Sage, where you can look at the solar projects that are available, and you can typically reduce your power bill by 10% just by signing up for the power. This is for everybody who can't have solar on their roof. I have a roof, I have trees. I can't put solar on my roof. I don't have a lawn where I can put it. So people like us, who like the benefits that are associated with it, you can go through Energy Sage to find projects that you can buy power from. And it's an automatic 10% reduction. TJA, Clean Energy, 23 acres, again, 5 megawatts. And US Light Energy on Lee Road, 33 acres, 5 megawatts. These are projects that have all enrolled essentially. They filed applications, they funded the escrow. The escrow funds are used for professionals like John and myself to review these projects and to help the town to regulate them under your existing solar law. We've also got 2 other projects, Norbut Solar Farms on 310 and Algonquin Power on Old DeKalb Road, that have just notified us that they're going to do these projects. As soon as they tell us that they're going to do a project, we send them a letter with our solar law, and we demand that pilot agreement be put in place. And under our law, we'll also be negotiating post-community benefit agreements that are yet to come. So that's kind of an overview of what you have on the screen. These are all projects that are at the very beginning of the process. I don't believe there's any of them that have actually received a permit at this point through the planning board. And each one of them, according to our solar law, requires a site plan approval, which is a planning board process. And those will be staggered over time with the planning board looking at the details. And that's where the engineering folks come in to look at those site plans, all of the permits that are associated, things like stormwater protection, et cetera. And there's a very detailed set of reviews that go on each project. So that's kind of a snapshot of where we are today. And we're happy to take any questions from the board, from the public, as you like.
Bill, board members, comments or questions? Any questions from anyone in the audience? Toby?
Toby Irving, resident of Canton. I see quite a disparity in the dollar amounts that have been put in escrow. Why is that each project putting in nickels and dimes? Isn't there a law that suggests an amount that should be put in?
Well, there's 2 different lots, sticking it that way. The 5 megawatt projects are based upon the capital cost of the equipment when they submitted their application. In other words, we're asking them, you tell us what the value of your project is, and then we will take a 1% escrow. And we will use as much of that as is necessary to review the project and return the rest. The 94C project, a major power plant, the funding available to the town is based on the size of the project. So for a 240 megawatt project, there will be a fund of $240,000 that's available to the town, to the county, to the school district, to interveners from the community who want to be involved in reviewing the project and have issues that they want to bring to the board. There's an opportunity for a review process through an administrative hearing through this newly created siting board. And it is probably a 4, maybe 5-year duration for that project, just in the plan. So there's 2 different levels that we're dealing with. So these numbers reflect the $20,000 number is, there are a number of questions that they have asked the town. For example, questions about our roads, questions about what kind of visual impact analysis should we do? Are there sensitive communities that we need to put to fold into our planning? I have a 20-page letter on my desk of questions that they've asked. So they have provided the funding pre-application for us to respond to those things, to have professional help to do that. Once the application is filed, that larger escrow amount is available to all the communities that are affected. So that's why it's small today, because their project is in what I would call pre-planning stage. Nevertheless, they still need our input. They want our direction on the issues. It's obviously a very large project. So that's why the numbers don't quite square. That eventually will be 240. It's a lot of work, right, to address just the issues that they're going to raise. So we're in for a fair amount of that project, and that will include outreach time to time to the public to try to inform, educate, answer questions, and be involved. Anybody else? We'll be here for a bit.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill.
And I concur, it is a lot. And so we appreciate all the work that the board is, especially the committee and the planning board and Mike and you helping us. It's much appreciated. Okay, correspondence.
Wait.
I'm sorry.
We have John explain what his role is in all this at the same time.
Absolutely, Scott.
I'm John Condino from Martin Hughes Engineers. We're a company that's actually headquartered in Syracuse. We have offices all around, actually, New York State. We've now extended as far as, well, actually, pretty much the whole Northeast. I manage the office in Watertown. We're responsible for the North Country, Jefferson, St. Lawrence, Franklin, those counties. Done a fair amount of work up here in the area, been around for a lot of years. I think Eric is probably the one, Eric Gustafson, that basically introduced our services for solar review to the town because we're working with Eric up in Seaman, Region Falls. We have a whole team that actually is dedicated to review these solar projects. We work for municipalities, we don't work for those solar companies. So we're used to doing our best to protect the municipalities. As was pointed out earlier, Bill, sometimes these utilities can be a little heavy-handed. Even the utilities that are proposing these solar projects, we've got a whole team of folks that understand we're working all over New York State. A number of these reviews going on in addition to what we have up here. Down in Canton. Very confident, quite frankly, that our folks are very well worked with Bill for a number of years. So happy to be involved. He's done great. Town board and planning board, I commend you for the solar law that was enacted. We've actually helped a number of communities in the last 2 years put together solar laws. I'm actually proud to say that Canton solar law becomes a bit of a, an example, a shiny example. You asked about these escrow funds. This is the best system we've seen so far for setting up an escrow fund right from the beginning. They submit, they're asked to put up a substantial amount of money. There have been some that have said a little much. And the basic answer is, you want to commit to the town of Canton, put it up, use it, return to you what's not used. So I commend you for what you've done. Makes our job easier, your job easier. But again, just the assurance that we're looking very closely to the very complex projects. Our job is to represent the town.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John. Can you just give us a sense of what the solar rush, the pressure that is put on Canton, where that ranks across the state? I mean, are other communities having to wrangle with 7 community and a 240 meg?
We are working with some other communities that, that are working with the bigger projects. I would say that you're probably towards the top of the list when it comes to the number of projects that you have in front of you right now. Although we're working with some other communities that have, 2 or 3 or 4 and more coming. I mean, if you look at the New York State's goal for renewable energy over the next 10, 20 years, and then you start equating what it's gonna take simply in solar projects, it's an amazing number that are projected to go in somewhere, and we're best to do it. Fortunately for us in the northern country, we're gonna be facing that more of this.
Thank you.
I have something to add, because I kind of come from a different perspective. My practice, I represent municipalities, towns, villages, counties, cities on energy matters. But I also represent landowners who receive a solicitation and want to enter into a lease. So I get to see a lot of the activity before the development happens to represent those landowners. So I've seen an incredible amount of activity across all of the central part of New York and even more downstate. There's very few large parcels of undeveloped land once you start to get into Orange, Rockland, Westchester, Long Island. But it's incredibly lucrative for the landowners down there because the energy prices are so high. Therefore, the lease rates are very high, sometimes 3, maybe 4 times higher than what we see here in the country. So from my perch, I see the whole state from Chautauqua all the way over to the River. It's an incredible amount of activity going on. And there's a whole cascade of questions that come from that. Where is that power going to go? We have an abundance of opportunity here in the North Country, but all the usage is downstate. So there's a lot of challenges that the law that John referenced, which is to try to accelerate renewable energy, is an incredibly aggressive set of goals. To get there from here is a huge hurdle. There are 2 reasons why you're seeing it. One is that regulatory push, and the other is where are there places where you can interconnect. And what I tell my landowner clients, it's like having a stop on the thruway. Once you're connected to that energy highway, you're never going to give it up. That's a rare commodity, something that's a limited value, a limited commodity with a high value. So that's why your neighbors are seeing solicitations. And that's why a lot of them have chosen to go in that direction. And I think this is a trend that's only going to grow.
Especially with 13 miles of 765 kV line running through. Just can't.
It's a highway.
It's a big high. It's super high, super highway for energy transmission. Because it's, 765 line. So.
Those are the drivers. The reasons for it are all the infrastructure issues.
And I think you'll find that I'm pretty sure that when they put the original 765 kV line in what 76 somewhere in there, I think they secured leases to be able to run them at the same time. So they've got footprint too.
Eric, I'd like to thank you. You've been with us from the beginning, and your leadership and counsel has been invaluable to get us to this point. It's a lot, and we appreciate what you've done as well. I just have one question. From your experience, what's the average lease that somebody might sign up for on an annual basis? What's the compensation? You know that kind of information?
So let me give you the range.
Okay.
Because it's really dependent upon which utility, National Grid, NICEAG, Orange and Rockland, Con Ed. So on the Con Ed end of the spectrum, you're seeing lease rates of $6,000, $5,000 per year. So if you look at 5 acres, 40 acres, in those downstate areas, it's a gold rush. So as you go into NICEAG, it steps down. here in the North Country and in National Grid, it's the lowest end of the spectrum. So it can be anywhere from just above what you get for hay to maybe $700 to $1,000 an acre, depending on which one of these folks shows up at your door and what you negotiate. That's why people hire me, to try to negotiate about the deal. So make sure that the lease that they sign is something that they understand. Because it comes with a lot of strings. It's a long-term lease. It can be, they say 25 years, but then when you look at their opportunities to extend it, it can be 40, 45 years. So it's a multi-generational thing. And there's just a whole host of factors that be. So I would say 500, it would be a very low, $500 per acre would be a very low lease rate. But you may be able to see numbers that are over 1,000 and maybe closer to 1,500, depending on where your land is, where is it relative to the highway. If you're not in a place where you can get your power into the grid, they've got to run a line. Whenever you're dealing with the utilities and their monopoly on the lines, it's expensive. So there's a whole range of factors that go into it. My advice to people in Canton that are approached about this is to negotiate, to get help, because it's a daunting thing to get a 50-page lease on your desk to try to figure out what all that means. Read hundreds of them. There's a lot of commonalities to it, but it's a lot of leases.
So in almost all of these, it sounds like the lease survives any land transfers, ownership transfers.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the other point that's interesting is that you probably heard that there are tax credits available for power projects. And those tax credits started at 30% of the capital cost. So what happens with these power projects, and I've been involved in this about 15 years. The builder of the project, the guy who knocks on the door, they built the project, but it's more than likely they will sell the tax credits through a limited liability corporation, selling the ownership. And those tax credits are harvested by somebody who pays a lot of taxes. Who pays a lot of taxes? Google, Bank of America, insurance companies. They're owned by very large entities that pay a lot of tax. And then they have operating companies that operate the system. So that's the structure of it. So very often you may deal with one entity to build it, and then you wind up getting your checks from a series of other folks down the line. Those are the common things that we see.
I hope I'm wrong, but my fear is that we're going to transition from an ag community to some. I hope I've been wrong before. But, and it's all going on ag.
Open, clear land is the least of the four.
It's cheap. And when you start, as you said, when a farmer is competing for that land for, say, hey, $100 an acre rent is not uncommon here now, but it can't compete with that. It can't. It's impossible. Then it's, but again, part of that's 13 miles to 765 kV line. And we have found out that one of the most difficult entities that we have worked with is no. They are
To no one's great surprise.
do what they want. Whenever.
Jim, maybe that's something we can take a look at with this board, because I think maybe Bill can speak to this a little bit, but the density of these type of projects is something that we may want to consider regulating through the community. And that's something that I think is looked at in seeker, number one. And if we've got a local law that wants to control the density of these type of projects throughout the town, right? Maybe that's something we can get, the various siting boards to take a look at.
That there are things that you can do to try to manage this kind of growth. And you are way ahead of the curve by having a solar law and a battery law. I've worked with a lot of communities across the state, and you are a leader in that respect. So it makes sense that you would also be in terms of trying to address the next level of regulation.
We do have a short list of other tweaks to consider, so maybe we should circle back and have a discussion about that.
I mean, even our law has in there that we encourage, you couldn't just flat out say, no, it ain't gonna happen. But we encourage that you stay away from finite lands. About 1,800 acres was there, all on private. Or a good portion of it is private. And so the goal where it's, it's kind of funny because you're talking about sustainability, you're putting up solar, but the companies that are doing this just as cheap as it. It's all about profit.
Clearing land is very expensive. Clearing land is expensive.
And there.
But if it's currently an ag land, it's the farmer who's actually selling it off underneath their own feet, so.
But if you're 70 years old, and somebody, comes through, knocks on your door and says, here you go, I'll give you 2,000 an acre for the rest of your life, a year. That's easy math for me.
It's a multi-generational decision. If it's 40 years, we're talking about several generations on that farm and that are involved in that decision. And that's fairly common.
And the timing is good. Because
I'm not sure that's by accident. That's not by accident.
It's very complicated, a lot of layers, and it is a lot of work, and it has impacted all of us. But I couldn't be more proud of how we responded and the due diligence. So, okay, everybody good? All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Appreciate the opportunity.
Okay. All right, correspondence, we have none at this point. Town finances report. Angela?
Good evening. The April 2022 finance report was handed out in advance. Just to review that quickly, all of the funds in summary are operating at a surplus after 4 months of operations. The general fund, which is true in all, but a couple funds, the revenue is under budget as we would expect after 4 months of operations, as are the appropriations as well, though. So the general fund currently has a surplus of $151,000 after 4 months of operations. The town out fund, same as general revenue and appropriations are both under budget. However, the surplus is $106,000 after 4 months of operations. The townwide highway fund, $445,000 surplus year to date after 4 months, and part-town highway, a surplus of $127,000 approximately. Going back one column, the DA fund townwide highway, the revenue that is over budget there is related to interest. So that one fund has been, the revenue budget has been. Overall, government-wide, the surplus is $882,000 year to date. We'll continue to watch that as the year progresses and appropriations are fulfilled. The The cash balance in the town of Canton is outlined for you 2022, April 30, 2022 versus April 30, 2021. Important to note, of the total cash available, 585,000 approximately is held for special purpose, and the cash balance within the town is 2.3 million.
Okay. Anybody have any questions on any of the other reports? All right. Thank you, Ann.
Want me to do the town?
Yes, please.
Okay, the second report I just have to review and quickly is the Canton Town Clerk report. Just at a high level, the clerk's office has been collecting taxes and fees. Total taxes collected through town and county taxes is 4,686,000 rounded. There are some penalties and surcharges that have also been collected, all of which have been transferred, and the same holds true to the other revenues that are collected, the decals and fees as well. So at the end of the month of April, there was small amounts due for each of these, just a timing issue. They will clear themselves out. Cash balances will go to zero as expected. And that would be everything for the month of April, unless there are any questions.
For the tax account, we'll write one more check to the county, a final payment in June, once we close out with the county. So then we'll write that final check. So I won't write one this month, the next month, and then I'll do the 2 finals to the town for penalties and the second month.
Great. Okay. Audit committee.
So fund A, the total expenditure is $28,049.59. Fund B, town outside, $1,101.45. DA fund, townwide highway, $12,441.83. Part town highway, fund DB, $11,727.21. Special fire, $3,958 even, and special lighting, $271.74. Trust and agency, $20,364.25.
Okay, any questions of the audit committee? I need a motion to approve the expenditures.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Carried. Okay. Department reports. Heidi, we'll start with you.
Okay. So we already did the financial reports. Okay, so decals, we received our new fishing guides. The hunting guides will come out sometime in August. Records management, I've been working with some of the departments. Cindy has brought down some maps and boxes for me to go through. We're working on labeling them, getting the records and disposition ready to sign off on the records that are able to be disposed of. On April 20th, I had a meeting with myself, Marianne, Dylan, Mike, Cindy, Leanna, and to go over the FOIL procedure. Last month, I talked about online payment to a person that paid but didn't submit any paperwork. I did refund that to the person. And then just to follow up on a question that was asked, and how many times the online feature was used for the fee account. In 2021, it was only used 5 times. And in 2020, this year, it's been used 21 times. I attended the NISTICA conference, April 24th to the 27th. I met with a representative from Profile, which is who does our book preservations. So someone will come in to my office either in June or July to go over getting some of our books preserved and the cost of that. Some in-house training. I only need 2 more people's harassment and discrimination training. Now we're waiting on a few of the ethics law training, but I sent those out a little later than they should have been, so they're coming in. And then we just scheduled the workplace violence training for June 7th and 8th at 10 o'clock, so. And then I just have one more thing to add to my report that wasn't on there. I was invited by the NISTICA Executive Board to participate in a retreat for rebranding education for the new state town clerks. I'm 1 in 4 new clerks in the state to be invited. This will be all paid retreat, so there's no cost to the town. So I will be out of the office from June 2nd to June 4th, but Leanna will be there, so for the stay open. So, all that, any questions or?
If I could just say, you did get a scholarship.
Oh, I
Would
did.
you like to talk about that?
I got a scholarship for the conference that I just attended, so the town will get $640 back. For what we paid out.
All right. Board members, any questions? Thank you. All right, Linda's not able to be here, but I believe, yeah, she was going to introduce Rachel Town. Rachel is the part-time historian, I almost said librarian, because she works at the library, assistant historian that you are constantly hearing from Linda about. So we wanted to have her come here and introduce her and say thank you. So, okay. Cindy,
Okay.
assessor.
First off, we had our bar meeting tonight and just a preliminary meeting about what, what to expect. And for the most part, it's probably gonna be pretty quiet, probably about a handful of people will be coming in for grievance. They didn't do it by appointment. So they'll either come in, as they come in, we'll see them. We did find out Maureen's not gonna be attending the grievance hearing, so we're down 3. So we only had 3 people, which is fine. So there'll be 3 bar members at the grievance hearing. Anybody have any questions about my report or anything? No.
Cindy and I had a conversation today just about solar assessments and learning all about that piece and how that's going.
Yeah, I'm sure you heard that there was a judgment done by the Supreme Court. They should be hearing something by May. So hopefully they'll get that all straightened out and everything. A couple of towns go Harry County, yeah.
Yeah, just the general background for this is that when the legislature passed the exemption for renewable energy, it made everything exempt, all renewable energy development exempt from real property tax unless you opt out. So a town, a village, school district out and choose to tax them. In our situation, we have not opted out, but we are requiring a payment in lieu of taxes agreement, which is part of the solar law, along with the host community benefit agreement. And this is an area for the board's focus on what exactly those agreements are going to say. And we've kicked around a number of different things in the conversation so far. So there will come a time for the board to provide some guidance when we get to the first one of these agreements as to what is it exactly are we going to put out there for the payment in lieu of taxes agreement and the host community benefit agreement, and how are those funds going to flow into the town. So we've got some work to do in order to put that together. And in the meantime, everything is up in the air as far as the legality of these things is concerned. But I think by the time we get to our discussion, hopefully those issues will be resolved. So,
Our reasoning for not opting out was we don't want to penalize the residential solar arrays. So we stayed in for their benefit.
there is a pretty much a 50-50 split.
Yeah.
The school districts have all opted out. money, they don't have that same issue to address. But towns, counties, villages, cities. it's 50-50.
Okay, and grievance day is May 24th,
Yes.
from 4 to 8, and you'll be sitting with the
Yeah.
rules, that's all been advertised, so, okay. All right, thank you, Cindy. All right, Megan, would you like to go next?
So just in addition to the report, after the village obviously approved it, we put the electric Zamboni that broke last fall up for auction, that sold. We're waiting for the final paperwork of the buyer. We went up to $4,250. We're pretty happy with that price. Working with Rick at DPW, we kind of guessed scrap was going to be about $400, so we're very happy with that price. Most of my updates involve Taylor Park. This past weekend, obviously, we had a weekend, it was a big weekend, we had perfect weather. I don't think we could have more for this weekend. The ADA launch was delivered on April 30th, Saturday morning. We had a lot of volunteers show up, including Bob Samore. He got the, he's a cool guy, stamp of approval from my guys. So I think Bob had some fun that day. The pathway from the parking area to the launch, that was completed on May 2nd. The bathhouse was completely painted on the exterior on May 1st. And then just today, my crew, they finished up installing all brand new toddler bucket seats and broken swings at both Taylor Park and Watt Street Playground. Those swings were paid for because we received a $1,000 Stewart's Holiday Match grant. That was 100% paid for.
Okay. Any questions? All right, great. Stephen?
So spring cleanup is underway. We've been making our way around. We call them victory gardens. Nothing to be proud of from plowing when it happens. So we make our way around to clean them up, and we're just about done. We have one plow route left to go now, so that's a good thing. Asphalt prices, everyone knows that they follow oil and gas prices, fuel prices. So there's that's, I don't know if you want to call it volatile right now in that market, but it's scary at best. It's not looking good for your blacktop right now. Prices are extraordinarily high now, and they're going to get higher. So
Give us numbers.
right now, so county bid in the booklet I got in March was 48, I think 48 or $49.31. I spoke with the highway superintendent yesterday that he did a quick quote. One plant was $70 and change a ton, and another one was 68 and change a ton. So we're already up, may as well say $20 a ton, and the season's just barely getting started. So they set the prices per month. So at the 1st of June, it's going to go again. It's how it goes. It's very expensive.
And we've been told this is gonna be better than next year.
That was, I spoke with somebody that's in the oil industry as far as asphalt oil. And he said that usually the year after is the worst one, because they set the pricing this year to fill the tanks in winter at the terminals. So then next year it's going to be worse because you worked off of those high prices this year. And they've already bought the oil last winter on lower prices this year. So it's going to be worse. He said, generally speaking, the year after is worse than the year you're in.
And any progress we thought we were gonna make this year, with our extra money is gone and then some.
way past that.
I asked Stephen this afternoon if there's a discussion going on amongst other superintendents and even the county. At what point does the price get to where you just decide to sit out and pay them for a year? I mean, at some point, we're almost double of what we paid last year per mile. At what point do you say, okay, time out, we're not gonna do it? We can't. Well, not with CHIPS money anyway, you gotta use it, but you gotta use it.
I spoke with a couple more highway superintendents after we talked today, and they said that from past years, they just grin and bear it, do what they can, even though how little it is, just to try to make some forward progress.
That's rough.
You gotta spend at least what's budget, there's no question about it.
Right.
It just doesn't get you as far as you really want to.
So, that's kind of not really great news in the highway report, but, so then, we did receive plans for the drainage on Minor Street Road project just recently, so we will be setting up some meetings, hopefully in the really near future. Start looking all that stuff over and see what the highway department can do. Try to make a plan there, and get going forward with the grant money. And that next year is 25, okay. So
So
that's
you got,
something.
the plans are from Brooks.
So we can try to get moving forward with that soon. Other than that, it's, the crew's been busy here recently just with spring cleanup, patching potholes, working on dirt roads, things like that. That's about all I have right now.
Okay, so that's enough.
Yeah.
Anything else?
What's the status of the motor you're gonna do?
Actually, I did, heard from the salesman finally. They do have a production date now that should see it in July. A little bit different than the original March, but at least there's forward movement there as well. That was ordered last December.
And it's probably a good thing. I can imagine what the new price of that would be.
I would guess.
What make is it, Steve?
Caterpillar. I do know two truck manufacturers that people that have had new heavy trucks ordered. And they're 18 months to 2 years out. And people have come back, the dealers have come back and said, there'll be another 4,000, 4,500 now. The one guy told me, he said he went right back at them and told them, we agreed on this price. They said, prices have gone up. This is what it's going up. If you don't like it, there's plenty of people in line, we'll sell it to them.
So even if you have a written agreement, which we do, and we put down a $50,000.
Well,
Down
that's on the
payment.
truck.
Oh, this is the other.
This is loader,
Oh, all right, sorry.
but.
Where are we
it's,
at? The truck then?
That being said, when the new one shows up, when we get ready to sell the one we've got, we might be looking at getting what they're going to pay for.
Possible.
But we did get the lawn. Equipment, right?
Excuse me?
The lawnmower equipment. We got that, right?
Oh, the roadside mower?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
that's-
we did
that's at
receive
the
that,
town barn, yes.
right. So, okay. All right, nasty. All right, thank you, Stephen, appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, Lee? Hi.
So we are beginning to talk about priority planning, the CFA, solid funding application grant funds were announced in the last week or two. Applications are due July 29th, so there's a number of funding opportunities available there. We're asking both boards to go to their committees and departments and see if there are any projects in the works that want to be considered for grants, and so to pursue. With the addition of additional consultation fees for getting the official LWRP designation from the state. So that'll be the addition. So there's that. The Willow Island project, which is part of the same grant as the Minor Street project. We did receive one proposal and they came and presented to the committee. We had a few follow-up questions. They had a subcontractor as part of their proposal, and there were some questions about their piece, which is mostly the engineering piece. So they just got back to me today. The committee's looking at it again, and they're going to revise the proposal a little bit. There were some things in there that weren't applicable to our project, so we're going to modify that a little bit. So no decisions yet, but working on it. New York Main Street grant continues to progress. Just a reminder, there's 8 building renovation projects and 3 streetscape projects involved in that. We slowly are getting approvals for environmentals and state historic preservation and things like that, and getting them approved by the state. 1 in progress, 2 out to bid, another 1 almost ready to go out to bid, and so they're kind of in various stages of readiness, but we're going to start hopefully to see some more action here soon. The CDBG CARES Act application, the village submitted their request for consultation, which was the first step in the process, and we were told that funds have been expended. They are all allocated at this point, so they're going to let us know if more funds are released. They have done that. They've had several releases before. I don't know if they're going to do it again, but probably remember that at the end of June. So that's unfortunate, but that's like those sometimes. Community forest management plan that was also a DEC or the forestry grant has been completed, and there's going to be a presentation to the village board tomorrow night via Zoom at 6 o'clock. All that information is on the website. The village is looking to do the secondary water source project for water infrastructure, municipal water infrastructure. We submitted a letter of interest to the Northern Border Regional Commission Fund, and were invited to a full application for, we get up to $1 million for infrastructure for that. It's over a $2 million project. The village also is intending to put some ARPA funds towards the project to get that accomplished. So we will be submitting that application by June 3rd. Some other funding opportunities that are down the road, we don't have much information about them yet, but one of them is called the New York Forward Program. This is something new that was in the budget this year. There's not a lot of information out there, but it appears to be a contest similar to the Downtown Revitalization Initiative. It's more focused on rural communities, so we don't know exactly what that process is going to be, one or the other, or what, but so we're awaiting more information on that. Last year, the timeline for that, it was released right at the end of July, just before the CFAs were due, and they were due in September. So my guess would be that they may be following similar schedule to that. So we'll keep an eye out for that. The other one is Restore New York program. This is a program that they've had 5 rounds of. The last one was in 2017. Canton was awarded one in the 2006 or 7 or 8 or something to redo the Gray Lanes building, former Gray Lanes building. So that's a program that we might look to assist with some private projects. So we will keep that in mind as well. That's it.
So getting back to the LWRP, it's my understanding that it was that was kicked back to the Economic Development Steering Committee as well as the Recreation Committee. We haven't discussed it at the Recreation Committee level yet, but it's the intention of to move forward from the Economic Development Committee. Okay, so
Yes.
so we'll talk about that at the Recreation Committee level. So, okay. All right, any questions of Lee? Mike.
Figured that was the last one.
All right,
Good evening.
so next month I'm gonna put you first.
Oh,
Okay.
thank you. Good evening. everybody's got my report. It was a busy month in April, 16 building permits throughout the month. 2 new homes being built in the town. One of the demolition permits issued was for the home that burnt on Lee Road. He's gonna rebuild new camp cottage on Minor Street. Total project cost for the building permits issued was almost close to $1 million, $935,100. The unfortunate part, 4 of those projects were started without a building permit. It's common, but the other 4 were property maintenance issues through the month. And as the 2 gentlemen here spoke, we've been inundated with solar, and that's the daily item on my agenda. Seems like every day there's another email or another thing pops up. But these gentlemen have been very, very helpful. Answering questions, or I give them information and they can point me in the right direction. Because I'm the first person to be contacted with all these. I also issued 9 certificates of compliance and 1 certificate of occupancy for a new home on State Highway 310. That's it.
And how many letters did you tell me you mailed out for the solar projects?
I sent out over 100 letters last week to neighboring property owners of solar arrays. As of today, I've heard from 3 individuals. And 1 conversation was a half hour. He apologized. I said, hey man, that's my job. You tell me what your concerns are, well, you get them addressed. Actually, no, 4, Mr. Smith got a letter too. But his wife did not know. That is it.
All right.
Hey, Mary Ann.
Even
Okay.
worse than that, we talked about that meeting, but even worse than that is one of the owners of property for one of the community solar ones. I was talking to him today, and he had no idea that the town had received a $70,000+ check. He said, I wasn't even sure if this project was going to go anywhere. I said, well,
I would, coming from governor with the solar projects I dealt with, I would say you're correct.
so, I mean, these, I said, I would think that the developer would be communicating with you, but you stop and think about it. That's not something that the landowner really needs to be dealing with, because that's escrow, but it still wouldn't. It wouldn't hurt to inform the landowner that, we've submitted. And I said, I didn't know that you didn't know. And of course, he had asked me, what do you do with the money? And I invited him.
It'll be in the paper though tomorrow, right?
So-
Something.
But I mean, again, like you say, this stuff is going on. A lot of what's going on. People aren't aware.
Well, I mean, Bill sent me an email at 3:20 on one of these projects, and then it's like, okay, we think.
It has consumed us. And, kudos to Dylan Behringer, part-time bookkeeper in my office. We've set up structured accounts on every single one, and it's a lot to track, but we've saved the taxpayers probably a little over $20,000
So far.
so far, right? But again, what is it used? Say the projects don't go, we have to return that amount, so.
And you gotta also look at this point, because I do another small municipality for my job. my other small municipality doesn't have solar, well, they don't have either planning or zoning. But just on the other side of that municipality, there's another municipality that's having a solar array installed. Here's the permit, here's the property, case closed.
And it looks like that when you drive by it.
You know, so that's where, you know,
Yeah,
like Jim said, the land, can't make any more land. And somebody can be knocking on your door.
it's a lot. Okay,
Thank you.
all right.
Coordination's been great. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. All right, I don't think I missed anyone that's here. All right, so I need a motion to accept department reports.
So moved.
Bob Watcho, is there a second? Second, Bob Sanamore. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, carry. All right, committee reports. Okay,
So Lee kind of already talked about our economic development committee, so wasn't reiterating that. We haven't yet met with the Justice Committee. In terms of the Sustainability Committee, a bunch of stuff there. They're considering new EV stations in the village of Canton. I'm not sure exactly where yet. I'm not sure anyone is. There's a organic pollinator garden. Frankly, I'm not sure quite what that is, but it's going out on the Boyden Road and corner of Boyden and Farms Road is my understanding. And of course, Jules' community energy program is, I think, on a pretty good momentum. One of the things I found interesting in that, of course, we've already talked about the 30-day opt-out because everybody's involved, everybody's in until you opt out. If you opt out, you can also opt back in if you find out that, hey, this is actually not what I thought. Now I want to take advantage of it. So that's kind of a nice advantage to that. And they're looking at late summer, early fall for implementation. So, and then finally, huge report done by 3 St. Lawrence students. That's a vulnerability study as part of the Climate Smart Community Subcommittee. So, and that's it's a huge amount of time spent for the course of the chapter. So.
okay. I think you've heard from solar.
Yeah, I think solar and hybrid, we pretty much covered a lot already.
And highway,
That's been where energy, my energy, anyway.
okay. Recreation,
Recreation. We met on April 25th. Village provided us with an expenditures report up to date. And they told us we should be getting them monthly starting June 1st. Meg, at that point, was talking to Elizabeth Burke, trying to get her to be the coordinator for swimming lessons, and I believe that's for change, right? We also talked about she's working on getting the summer programming in place. We talked about pickleball courts and tennis courts on Priest Field being resurfaced. Where are we with that?
We're scheduled for the end of June. The installers at Saratoga recommended by.
You're gonna talk to BOCES about getting wheels to make the pickleball nets portable, right?
Tennis.
Tennis.
Yeah, just waiting for that.
The launch was installed as she's already ordered it in the car. Had the dedication. We talked about the pavilion is in desperate need of block work. Megan's gonna get us some quotes on
Yeah, with Tim Bacon coming on at new superintendent, that is number 1 on his list. They need to be addressed.
She talked about the bathhouse being painted and Ray Howard did that for us, correct?
Volunteered all the time.
And at the meeting, Mary Ann presented to the committee a draft of the town village policy on constituent requests for community-based projects. We're gonna talk more about that at the upcoming meeting in a couple of weeks. It looked pretty good, but That's pretty much it for recreation. Marion and I have been looking into the Vision for Youth funding through the New York State Vision for Youth. And that's your St. Lawrence County Youth Bureau. Currently, it's a little different than the way I used to do it, where it was an annual thing that we applied for and then we got the funding at the end of the year. It's now down to a 3-year program. You have to apply for it and then you receive the funding over 3 years. We just missed the new 3-year cycle. Apparently that is in the email I got, they granted the funding last fall. And it's supposed to already started January 1 this year, so we missed that cycle. However, they said we could submit an application in case someone who has been approved for funding for one reason or another drops out and doesn't claim their funding. So we're gonna look into doing that. And they also said there's a possibility they may have funding available for sports-based programs. So that's something we need to visit with Meg about during our next meeting and see if that's a possibility. That's pretty much all I have.
And I think it was an annual allocation of 100,000 shared with me. And there's about 14 projects that were funded in the next 3 years. But if, someone drops out, but, we're really interested in doing more type of recreation in town outside.
Was that monthly budget report we put in our monthly packet, so the rest of the board gets to see as well? One that was shared and then future ones,
We will put them in when we get them.
Okay.
I thought we had forwarded what we had received so far. But yeah, we will.
Okay, cool.
Yep. Yeah, so that's a good change. Good change.
Thank you.
And we still need to talk about the shared services committee. We need to talk about a shared services agreement for recreation. So that's in the pipeline.
Yeah, I think we're waiting to be more informed about how this budget process went, to see if we learn anything from it.
Okay. All right. Any other committee reports?
Negotiations, we got a meeting scheduled for later this month. I don't know exactly. 23rd. But we will need to discuss some details of that.
Okay.
One more.
Oh, I don't mind.
Communications and technology met this morning. The committee is working on creating a procedure for room reservations and technology use by outside groups other than groups that have board members. Actually, Sally Noble spoke with the IT provider. He is going to do a quote for, I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this right, ubiquity access points. Because our Wi-Fi connection devices in this building need to be replaced. They're old and the company that originally installed them no longer exists. So she's getting quotes on that. So other than that, no.
The zoning and code committee has been meeting regularly and we've made great progress. We're gonna take a little break now, some folks have some scheduling issues, but we plowed through quite a bit of it. Now some work's on Monica to get back to us, but we'll probably have some drafts in a month or so.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for all that work. So under old business, we already went through the solar projects, excuse me. Number 2, the alternate energy systems permit fees. Heidi, if you would please bring up that resolution. So this is, excuse me, a proposal from the solar committee to look at our, excuse me, permit fees. So would anyone from the solar?
Yeah,
committee-
we currently have none on the books, and we've been kicking this around for a while, and we finally landed on dollar figures in there based on our research. It's not the highest in the county, but it's not the lowest either, and it still leaves room for some community benefit negotiation when we get to that point.
Okay, Heidi, can you roll it up just a little so that, yeah, yeah, if you want to keep going. So the bottom part, and I'm losing it, or otherwise I would, oh, thank you. I would read the entire resolution. Unless somebody else wants to read it.
It's straightforward.
So it's adding on additional, it's changing. the
There's
permit.
nothing currently on our, officially on our fee schedule. These are new items on our schedule.
Okay. So now therefore be it resolved that the town of Canton hereby amends the fee schedule for issuance of a building permit for solar generators as follows. Minor residential solar rounded up, $15 per kilowatt. Major commercial solar rounded up, 10,000 per megawatt. Tier 2 battery storage system rounded up, 10,000 per megawatt. Now therefore be it resolved that the town of Canton building permit fee schedule shall be amended in accordance with this resolution and take effect immediately. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
So moved by Bob Washoe, second by Jim Smith. Any further discussion? Questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Carried. Okay. Number 3, the purchase of 12 Styles Avenue property. This is for informational purposes. Thank you. Good
I
night.
imagine we'll be in touch.
Okay, so this is for informational purposes, and we closed on 12 Styles Avenue property. The final cost is $249,343.67. You know, thank you again, Eric, for all that work. And now we're,
Glad we could get it done.
Hmm?
Glad we could get it done.
yeah. I remember when this was all proposed. Remember that journey? So that was
You
a,
were on the board when it was first talked about. I mean, this been going on. Discussion of buying that. Yeah, 12, 15.
yeah. So again, it was a 3-year lease to purchase. We purchased. So we got that done. There's just a few other questions, Eric. I'll follow up with you on some other items about that. So.
And the committee is, we're meeting with colleagues from the village on Monday, just to talk about the next step about, really talking about the repurpose of it, once Michael's out there, and how the village is possibly gonna get the benefit from it as well.
Mhm. And so this is the folder. And because of that agreement with Michael's, the total amount of rent that we've been able to garner is $75,983. So that was a nice offset. And I do have all the other expenses if anyone is interested, you know, what was paid out and whatnot. So it was a good deal. And Michael's is in there for a little bit longer. So that helps the taxpayers. Okay, the next item is at our last meeting with the village, the joint meeting, we agreed to get a conceptual design proposal for the essentially new municipal building. We did receive a quote from the same architects that did the original one back in 2019 to the tune of $17,900. So we were all in agreement then to move forward with getting this done. So I just need, you know, the board to vote on the sum of 17,900, it would be split between the town and village. And because the town took the lead on it last time and billed the village agreed to take the lead and then they would bill us. So I would need a motion for that agreement for 17,900. Is there a second? Okay. Let me just add in, this is so to review the facilities needs assessment that we did and then develop 3 different options for conceptual floor plans for department spaces and site layout, and then develop an order of magnitude budget cost estimates of the new building. So, okay, so we have a first and second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, carried. Okay, new business. Informational only, as you know, when we renewed our NYMER insurance policy, we did discuss cybersecurity insurance. We went with that on the renewal. It was an additional $1,302.40. So that's informational. The next item is technology needs for board members. This came about as John requested the possibility of getting a laptop and having the town purchase it for him. And but it's a broader discussion about technology needs for board members overall. So I'm going to open it up. John, we haven't budgeted for any of this, but you know, with what's going on and the amount of work, I support getting John a computer. I did get a quote from ABS for $13.50.98, but I'm opening it up for other discussion.
I waited via email. This is the town of Canton computer right here. I only use it for town business, and I think the separation between the professional life and private life, it protects me, I think, having a town device. When I first came on the board, we were all given iPads. And kind of evolved away from that, but I think we should be offered to everybody so they have a chance to separate. And, I mean, I put a lot of time on this daily, so I think, you know, only right, I think, that it's separated from my private affairs.
Jim, you and I have had general conversation about if you're interested in one as well. Sure. Yes.
Well,
Would you like a laptop?
I didn't have a good experience with the last time I got into this. And it ended up that people have access to a lot of information that I didn't have access to because I got paired with even a phone. And the phone costs were deducted out of my pay. And you know, it ended up, the phone was not in my name. And therefore, people have access to text, phone call. So I just, and I'm not a good tech person, and it's because I haven't had to use it. But it's so weird that I use it. So what I would say is, somebody wants to, I'll take the time to have somebody walk me through it. See if it's something I can deal with. I'm, unfortunately, you know, I've been in this for 30 years and through it, I've always been more comfortable. I can see it, but it's not, you know, I'm not, you know, surfing through something. I mean, you know, when I was a legislator, you know, our packets were that thick, and I understand, you know, you know, get away from paper, we're cutting too many trees, but I don't know how much paper is actually produced from cutting trees.
Yeah, I don't know if it has, I think with the advent of us using Google Drive the way we use it, I've been at your house when you try to use Google Drive on your phone or iPad and it just does not work. It's not a format that it works, and you really need a real operating system for Google Drive to really benefit you. And trying to learn Google Drive on an iPad is, you know, it'll crack you up before you figure it out. So I think an iPad is always, or a computer is all of a sudden gonna make the Google Drive seem, oh, it's that easy. It really is that easy.
So why don't we get you one, and if you don't like it.
Your other problem is he doesn't have an internet, you don't have internet. So, but you can hotspot out your phone. I can teach you how to
Yeah,
hotspot.
I mean, the phone is way smarter than I am, that's for sure.
But you can hotspot off your phone onto the.
That's
internet.
That's mine. Wonder if he's one of our 245.
Oh, yes.
And
Yeah, CR32 is on there.
Cannot do it.
No. So,
First-hand information, you cannot use Google Drive without an internet connection. It's reliable. You can't edit documents, you can't. Hotspot. You paying for the hotspot?
it's all cool, guys. But anyway, that's.
So anyway, should we purchase one and
So
then?
I say, let's do a little tutorial here and see, if, you know, I agree. You know, John understands it and it'd be a great tool for him. I'll take the time to, you know,
To see if that works.
just see if it's gonna work before we start.
If he feels bad about a new one, he can take my old one, I'll get a new one.
That's fine. That's fine. And if it comes around to that, that's it, that's fine.
Okay,
It is what it is.
so are you good with your technology?
Well, I actually agree with Bob on this. I think that there does need to be a clean separation line with town business and any other business. I think if it's not delineation, I think it does muddy the waters a little bit and it's not cut and dry. And, you know, with this, I've got all the stuff on this, and, you know,
So you want a computer?
well, I think it makes sense as a policy for us to seriously consider that as a policy and use it exclusively for town business, and that's it.
So is that a yes?
Yes, yes.
I think we're just offering it, but I mean, there's something, we can't force somebody to use it.
No.
So I think, the suggestion here to offer it and then. it's up to the individual.
Okay, so you are interested?
Yes.
All right, John is, all right.
So what about like town clerk?
Eric, would you like a tone?
No,
Okay.
no, and it's for the, I mean, first of all, the communications between me and the town are really between P's and customs. And this is a P's and customs computer, so I've already made that separation with my work and my professional. So I'm already, thanks for that, I'm already good. But I think it is a wise idea. You know, I'm listening to the back and forth, but I can tell you from a you know, a litigation perspective and a ability for people to, you know, foil things like emails related to solar, right? Those are things that are technically foiled, right? So having them on a town system that can be turned over, I think is wise. And I also think it, you know, it will make sure that you're disciplined about keeping, you know, town business focused on that computer rather than mixing.
Okay, and I too have a laptop already, and I use it if I'm working from home. But I'm like you, Jim, I'm old school. I like paper stuff, you know. So what I'm gonna be looking for though is for the town to purchase a cell phone from the supervisor's office. I've been using this. This is my own personal phone, and I pay for it all. So I'll be putting that in my budget for next year.
Yeah.
You know, we purchased a phone for highway and for code, and we got some issues, Stephen, knock it off. But we could get the phone for free under FirstNet through AT&T, and then that's what we did with the two departments already, so I'll be looking to do that. Yes, there's been some issues, but overall, but it's really not the phone, it's some other stuff, it's internet stuff that you get unwanted stuff and Stephen, yeah, so. Megan, did you want to say something?
Yeah, just about laptops, because I've been without one for a week and a half, because mine hit that. as also a resident of the town, it's not just laptops, we need security.
Right.
Because the laptop that I did have was actually not issued by the village. So, and they didn't know that. So, and I didn't know that until we did some digging. So we're in that world that you gotta be, cybersecurity and all that stuff.
Right.
Yeah, laptop, get it.
Ours are
It was
network,
hard,
ours
it was
are
hard to do my
network,
job.
ours are network with ABS,
ABS, yes.
Connect it right to this and does all the updates.
Right.
Yeah.
And if there's any problems, I mean,
Right.
that, by adding on, it's gonna increase the cost a little bit, but to me, it's.
They've
really-
been great to work with.
Oh, ABS has been fantastic. Lee, did you want to say something?
I do, just as it relates to technology, you mentioned phone. I think that if any staff are expected to be available by text or by cell phone, then that should be issued by the municipality, one or the other as well. Because I also use my personal phone a lot board members text me on my personal phone, I would prefer to keep that separate, and I think that's more important. So just, if that's an expectation, that's something that needs to be considered.
Well, I believe the village just purchased some FirstNet, just got some FirstNet phones.
I don't.
So you might want to talk to the mayor about that, so, yeah, okay, great, all right, we'll get that done, so, and so that'll be again, these weren't budgeted, but we'll just take it out of the fund balance. All right, we already talked about the St. Lawrence County Youth Bureau
Do we
funding.
need a motion for that?
For,
To do that, to make those.
Are you gonna present a policy? You want to just, or they want to vote on policy?
Yeah, because I really.
Well, for this
can't- I really
purchase-
can't vote to buy a computer. for that.
I think we can vote on the policy.
We can vote on the policy,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, yeah, we're not gonna name names, this is the
Right.
policy.
Yeah,
is for-
policy is-
yeah,
The
yeah.
board members have access.
so
to-
I'll make a motion that we purchase 2 computers at this price.
Okay.
For the town, yeah.
Second.
Second by Don. Any further questions or concerns? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. All right. Thanks for reminding me of that, Jim. All right, the next item is escrow account setup. Heidi, if you could pull that up, please. The Soul America Energy. This is retroactive. We got the money before, I didn't even realize it was coming, and we hadn't even set the account up yet. So again, this is a standard resolution that we've done for all of them. I'm not going to read it. So now therefore be it resolved that the Canton Town Board hereby authorize town supervisor to create an escrow account for the authorized expenditures related to Solar America Energy Judson Street Solar Project, which I've already done, but I need a motion to pass this.
So moved. Second.
Moved by John Tyo, second by Bob Stanamore. Any further questions, concerns? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Carried. Okay, so we'll get that processed. All right, the CHIPS paid New York and EWR monies. Heidi, if you would bring up the letter from the DOT first, please. Not coming up, not coming. Okay. Okay, so this is what happens. New York State Department of Transportation sends a letter directly to the highway superintendent. They still haven't taken Terry Billings' name off, when we asked them to put Calvin's name on, they haven't, and that didn't happen, and now it's Stephen. So the highway, and I even called and requested that the town get a copy of the letter. They can't do that. They said only one person gets it. So we have to rely on the highway superintendent to share it with us. So we got the letter. No, Stephen got the letter. So the apportionments for 22-23 is CHIPS is 289, 163.33. Paved New York is 76,338.18, and EWR is 66,206.49. So in order to expend that money, we have to do a budget amendment. So if you want to bring, can you bring that resolution up? Please. Yeah. Let's move it up just a little. And Angela, we'll get a copy of this resolution down to you guys. Okay. So the total state funding is 431,708. We have budgeted 550 for highway repair. But again, we need to amend the budget to spend the money and apply for it. Every year we put in just for the chips in the budget, but we don't put in the Pave New York or the EWR money until we get the letter, and then we increase it. So if you look at the chips line, we budgeted, I think, 223, and this is additional amount of 66,163. So I need a motion to approve the budget amendment. Is there a second? Second. Any further discussion?
Just that these numbers are exact same as they were. The state support is, I mean, at least it's staying the same, they're not cutting it, but it's flat. And when asphalt prices are doing what they're doing, flat doesn't help.
Okay, so all in favor, say aye. Aye, carried. All right. The next resolution is for the town board to approve town road repair. Oh, before we get to that, so there is new funding available. It's called POP money, highway fund. It stands for pave our potholes. I'm sorry. And we're targeted to get an additional 50,891.12. We haven't received an official letter, and until we get that, I'm not comfortable with doing anything with this. But to apply for it, we have to use the Pave New York reimbursement forms, and we're going to sit down and go through that as well. But I just wanted it to be on record that we've been notified, sort of, that we're going to get that additional money. But until I see something more official, I don't think we can do anything with that at this point. Okay, so the next, this one's number 8. All right, well, let's just go to that, the highway construction projects, and then we'll go to the posting of town roads. So Heidi, if you could bring that resolution up. The town board approval of town road repairs. I'm sorry, that's not working either.
This one, that error on the last one.
Okay, well, this is at the recommendation of the town highway superintendent, and the highway committee supports these expenditures for the following roads. Pirates Russell Road, 5,500 feet times 20 feet in the amount of 261,964. The Pink Schoolhouse Road, 1,730 feet times 18 feet, 74,851. The Crusher Road, 4,700 feet times 20 feet for 203,042, for the total amount of 539,857. And then on the Irish Settlement Road, installation of plates in needed areas to alleviate future flooding issues. I need a motion to approve this.
So
Moved by Bob Washoe. Is there a second? Any further discussion or comments?
Just a question, actually. Should there not be a now therefore be a result statement?
There should be. Good catch. All right. I don't know how we lost that. Also, we have budgeted 550 this year for expenditures. So my understanding through committee and Stephen that you're going to come back committee.
Sorry?
my understanding that, for, once we get these roads done, that you might come back with more,
If we get these roads done.
yeah, if we get them done.
Now we got that pot money.
Okay, so we have a first and a second with an amendment of now therefore be it resolved to approve these town road repairs. All in favor, say aye. Aye, carried. Okay. All right, posting of town roads. Stephen, I'm gonna ask you to speak to that.
Just looking for permission to those 3 roads, but at this point, would you like to jump in there and
Sure.
maybe your legal?
Yes, you know, I'd be happy to. Mayor, we met with the highway committee and we talked about this a little bit with Steve. There's a need for him to have some control of the town roads, whether it's posting in the spring for weight limits to avoid damage to the roads, or codifying his right to prohibit people from blocking off roads and doing detours without permission. It's something that he's concerned about, and perhaps the board should be too. I did a little background research. There is a provision in the traffic law that will allow us to adopt either a local rule or ordinance prohibiting, a certain weight limit during certain times of the year determined by the board to protect the roads. We can also do things like not allow anybody to do detours without the permission of the highway superintendent. So, we've got some options out there. I'm not sure what the board would like to do, but give some control over the roads so that in the future we don't have any issues. Right, both in terms of damage to the roads and in terms of safety.
If the committee's opinion to draft some language and codify it and gives Stephen the flexibility that he needs. Or the highway superintendent, whoever it may be.
So you want me to put something together for the board to consider at the next board meeting, and if it's acceptable, we can do a local law. Public hearing.
I think it's really needed.
Good.
Great.
Okay, everybody good with that? All right, great. Next item is public comment. So any public comment at this point? Okay. With that being said, we can need to go into executive session for the following matters. Litigation. Contract negotiations and employment history of a particular person. I need a motion. Second. All in favor, say aye. All in favor, say aye. Down there. All in favor, say aye. Aye, carries. All right, thank you everyone for joining.
You do.